welcome, and thank you for agreeing to join me on this podcast. Just a quick introduction to the viewers. We, Sondra and I, have known and worked together for 10 years now. We've just worked out backstage. But for our viewers, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. So as Craig said, 10 years, time flies. My name is Sondra Hope. I am a nutritionist, I'm a coach, cyclist, a runner, a mom, and through all of that, a stage 4 cancer fighter as well.
Yep. And that's how we got to know each other. First time I met Sondra was 10 years ago. If you know Sondra, she's very straightforward, speaks her mind, she doesn't mince her words. And we both got this darker sense of humor that best isn't in the public eye. So, I know how I felt when we first met. You were straightforward when you asked, will you prep me for a bikini competition? Your diagnosis was you had 6 months to live at the time with stage 4 cancer 10 years ago. So it's not like you've now got stage 2. It's been 10 years of it. Just to clarify that with the viewers. And I was stunned. I'm a very highly qualified paramedic. I'm used to very, very traumatic situations. It makes me good at what I do. I have a lot of empathy, and for the first time, I was lost. I was like, I didn't know what to say. Do I say yes? Because I always said, don't do this for money, do this because you want to. And at the time, it's like, it's not in your scope of practice. That only came later. I'm sure everybody would have run, Nobody wants to deal with it. And the way that I coach is, I care, truly, So when I got it, I was shocked. The first thoughts was, it's not always I'm going to put you in a deficit. It's not always I'm going to put you in, but the way you described and your reasoning, which I'll let you explain, justified it to me. So I said, yeah. And I remember turning my chair around at that stage office at a window, looking, and I just sat there and I didn't know it wasn't a confidence. It was like, can I do this? Should I do this? Can I, not around my ability, but around can I deal with the loss? Which it was, and, I spoke to my team and they all jumped in, remember, and we went through this whole competition. In hindsight, as nice a gesture as that was from everybody, it was me spreading the load and hiding behind the reality of it. So my first question to you, what does it feel like getting that first diagnosis? Like, how did you feel when the doctor said, and was it surreal, confusing? Like I've explained how stunned I was, I didn't know what to think. But I've never had that type of experience or that type of diagnosis before.
So I think it's important to perhaps give the background of it, that I was actually first diagnosed when I was 24 years old, which was basically 15 years ago. Subsequently after that, 3 times diagnosed, 3 recurrences, double mastectomies, again chemo, again recurrence. The very first time I was diagnosed, it was almost an out-of-body experience. So remember the evening that it happened, I knew I had a biopsy. I knew what it was, but obviously nothing prepares you for it. And at that stage, I was still working corporate IT as a program manager.
When you say you knew.
Yeah.
I knew. You had a feeling that this was...
I had a feeling that this was it. I was working, there was a senior director standing in front of me, was late at night. I had just received the call. I just came out of my office and she was standing in front of me and having a big fight about her BlackBerry, which was still a thing at that stage, a BlackBerry that wasn't connecting, and she would now need to log into her laptop to get emails as opposed to getting it on a BlackBerry. And it wasn't actually even my department, but I remember having her stand in front of me and almost having this out-of-body experience, watching this person interact with me and being so upset about something that is so small, that's just an inconvenience, Joe, when I've just been told that I've got cancer and I'm 24 years old. And I think 2 weeks after that, I had to go in for the mastectomy. At that stage, I just felt that at that age, I shouldn't even be thinking about these things. And I don't think I did until the morning of the actual surgery, when all of it became a very big reality. And I was extremely thankful for what's now my husband, but at that stage, we were only engaged. That kept me grounded, where I'm very emotional. He was very black or white about the whole situation.
Yeah.
But the diagnosis that happened 10 years ago was the first time that it was stage 4. And I think what made that so much worse for me was because my daughter was so small, and
Mm.
I had gone through 3 times getting this cancer. I had gone through doctors telling me I'll never get pregnant, yet got pregnant, delivered this healthy little girl. This was supposed to be my happily ever after, and now this. And I
So it
think,
was breast cancer,
yes,
which was
breast
okay.
cancer that had spread at that
It's just
stage
to
to the
spread
lymphatic
the
system.
importance that, often I find that it's only breast cancer, but it's not just only breast cancer.
Yeah.
But you did mention that you had diagnoses before. And what were those for?
So at age 24, it was the first time that they told me I had what they call DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma feature. So it was stage 2 tumor in the left breast.
Yes.
And I then had the mastectomy. I removed both breasts. The right side was prophylactic. The left side was with cancer. And I had a reconstruction done and radiation. A year later, it was recurrence in the chest wall, also left side. I had chemotherapy done, and 2 years later, it came back as stage 4. It went away for like 5 months, and then it just went lymphatic system, bone, most of the places, just after her birth.
What made you go in at such a young age to even get tested? What was the symptom?
I actually felt a lump on my left breast, and it was October month. So I thought, well, there's
What does
places
lump feel like?
everywhere. Sorry?
What does the lump feel like? Like a hard ball or
Yes,
stuck?
it just felt like a pea-sized little ball under the breast. And kind of thought, well, it's probably nothing, but it is October. So since there's access everywhere, I was in the UAE at that stage, to breast cancer screening, let me do it. And there was one in the mall, and I got there 5 minutes too late. And the woman's like, but you're 24, you don't need to be scanned. And I left it and flew about a week or 2 later into a female GP. So I thought, I'm here now. So I said to her, can you just do a breast examination? And she also felt. And then she was like, it's probably nothing, but let's send you for an ultrasound. But I remember coming out of the doctor's office, seeing Jeff and starting to cry because I just knew. And then they did the biopsy and then phoned me and said it is cancer and you need to come in the next day or 2 for a mastectomy. So I had very little time to really process it, but it just started with that. But it also was that case of, if something tells you that something's not right, I'm a huge advocate for self-empowerment, taking control of your health and questioning until someone listens to you. And something just told me that this is not right and you need to pursue this, because And that's even now when I'm asked to do cancer talks, one of my big emphasis is that. And secondly, that cancer is not an old person's disease. The amount of people I've lost now under the age of 40 that are diagnosed in de novo, so basically in stage 4, not even found in the early stages and became stage 4, actually diagnosed already stage 4, is really scary. So, yeah, it's not an old person's disease at all. And at that stage, I had no family history with breast cancer in the family when I was first diagnosed.
I'm finding that in my practice as well. A client now from the States, daughter, kidney cancer, age 10, thankfully is in remission. But it's increasingly common. Now, I do know that all of us have cancer in us. It's whether it gets triggered or not is our belief, but it is on the rise. I mean, I know you were the party girl, but I don't think it was excessive. I think the way we've discussed it, you were just a regular teen and a regular early 20s person. There was nothing out of the ordinary in your teenage years and so on, because the type of, which obviously later in the podcast you'll get a bigger picture of this. This is very genetic to me, whether it's in your family or not. It seems to be a very genetic factor to it, as well as the way that you deal with it. I associate that with a pro bodybuilder, and pro bodybuilders, part of their genetics is everyone tells me that you work with pros that, and they take up all your time. You don't have time. They're the easiest because they just do. Their ability to, adhere and to suffer and to is a genetic trait, I believe, as it's not the norm, which is something you have as well. When I was a paramedic, the beginning section of being a paramedic, I started as an EMT, which is just your basic ambulance license. Went to my AA, then went up to critical care assistant, which is the highest you go up to at that stage, back to 5,000 hours. Did swift water rescue after grade 5, which is overseas. And in the beginning, I was highly affected. I mean, I survived 2 bomb blasts. I was highly affected by it on an emotional level. I would come home and you can't talk about it to your family. So I understand the PTSD and the people go through. But after a while, it becomes work. You tend to compartmentalize that, and those feelings go away, and it becomes like a job. I don't think, obviously, that is true for you. Now, as I've known you, and the reason I bring that up is we've gone through the second question is, when did it sink in? And how's your own personal feelings about the prognosis? How was your family's response? The anger? Was it fear? Was it it's all of the above, I'm sure. The unknown. And whenever we deal with each other, it's generally a new diagnosis. It's now, okay, so it's here. It's the lung. Now it's the heart, then lungs. And these 2 are new diagnoses every time. So we've got the baseline of stage 4 cancer. And do you find, like I found as a paramedic, that you become immune emotionally to it? Or do you find that each of these diagnoses, that it's pretty here? Or the last one, I think, was probably, because I know how much you love cycling and how good you were and you had to turn to running. Because what people don't know is an exceptional endurance athlete, and not a disability type of category. I'm just saying, and she's an incredible athlete, just point blank. And that's partly because your ability to tolerate pain, good or bad. That's how you've used it for the positive. But these each prognoses, are they like the first one, or have you formed a coping mechanism for that emotionally?
I think I became really good at compartmentalizing it. Jeff, my husband, always talks about swings and roundabouts. This whole journey, swings and roundabouts. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's always a bad. But I think you have to compartmentalize, just because otherwise it's really difficult to always keep hope alive. I am not a negative person, but I'm also not someone that is going to vomit out rainbows of positivity and, oh, I'm going to beat this, blah, 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 because there are statistics. And I have proven to be a bit of an anomaly with some of the statistics. However, I don't think it serves anyone if I go out with this concept of I'm definitely going to beat this. And then, especially because there's a little girl involved, that she then gets this impression that I'm going to be around forever. And then the resentment when I'm not. So I compartmentalize these things. I handle every diagnosis like I do with the last one that became stage 4 is I handle it in the same stages that you handle grief. I have times when I'm really angry about it. Then there's times where I'm very depressed about it. And then there are times when I accept it, but I think it's not total acceptance. It is basically compartmentalizing it. I put it in a little box and I'll handle it when I have time to handle it. And I also tend to don't actually really make a thing about it. I don't really share it much anymore on social media, just because I still need to handle it. So I can't handle other people's emotions, and I can't help other people handling my diagnosis when I myself have not really come to grips with it yet. So because of that, I just stopped really sharing it, because I don't like to be pitied, and I don't want we always talk about the head tilt. It's like when you tell someone the diagnosis and you get the head tilt. So sorry.
Yeah.
So for me, sometimes it's better to just not deal with it, and I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And sometimes I don't actually have to bring it up. I don't have to handle it. It kind of just becomes part of life. You just live with it like you do with everything else. I've also gotten better with the years of allowing myself to ride the waves of it. It is okay to feel sorry for yourself. It is okay to be really down and depressed and angry and just really tired of the whole ride. But my rule is you don't get to live there. You can go and visit that place of despair, and you can even unpack your bags for a little bit and ride it for what it's worth, but you do not get to live there. And I think that is what has really been something that has happened with the years. I think it's gotten to a point where I spend less time there because it doesn't serve me well at all. We work around it. The cycling became a thing. Yeah. The cycling became a problem because of the bone metastasis and what the accident with my back, and we worked around it. The next thing then is we take on running until that becomes a thing, and then we'll do something else. I think that to me was the biggest obstacle, is just to realize. And I think that the downside of that is it makes it very difficult sometimes for me now when I interact with other people that are healthy and that have all these opportunities and that allow themselves to live in that sense of despair for way longer than what they should. It gets really frustrating for me, because you have so much going for yourself. Dig yourself out of that hole. Get yourself out of that situation. Do not take your health for granted. With years, I've said with the years, it has gotten easier for me to handle these things. And yeah, I've got a great support system. And I have my ways, I think, of dealing with the situation, which is probably why I took up the whole concept of endurance sports, because that is one of my ways of handling it. But yeah, the diet, it's not the same. You do desensitize from it. You learn to handle it better. You learn to compartmentalize it better, because there's been many, and you can't consistently be taken down with every single bit of bad news that you get.
Sure. I think, those are the positives. Everything has a positive and negative to it in some way or another. It's perspective, purpose. I've looked into various studies. One of the ones was purpose, and which is quite an eye-opener for me, which is more of a correlation-based study between on men who retire, and if they have no purpose, whether it be religion, family, whether it be a hobby, their life expectancy is 7 years on average. It's a median average. However, if they have purpose, their median average is 27. A similar study that I found quite fascinating was a study on happiness. And I think happiness is the wrong term. I would say contentment, or they used a baseline of how did this person feel before a certain event? And then how did they feel after this event? And the study was, they took all the biggest lotto winners in America and basically had nothing before obviously winning the lotto. And, how much did it increase their contentment, their happiness, however you want to put it? They then took the same population group, but of paraplegics who had lost the ability to who are wheelchair bound, whether it be by trauma, by accident, by whatever means. But they weren't born like that. They were perfectly healthy beforehand, so they had a reference point. And what they found after 6 months is both groups became back to their same average content. Fabulous. It's a way of the body's, I suppose the mind. The people in the wheelchairs found ways to be content again and not let it define them. And the lotto winners, the novelty wore off. And they realized that the grass isn't green on the other side and it presents its own problems. And they all came back down to baseline roughly about 6 months after it. Not to say that that's the same case in yours, but the positive I've seen in yours, the things that I think that makes you an anomaly, purpose. And why I say an anomaly is a pro bodybuilder is a 1 in a million chance. That is your chance of becoming one or having those genetics. And you're that 1 in a million to me, out of my small subset that I can say. And if I had to put it to one thing, it has always been not your achievements, whatever, it's been your purpose, your willingness to, like we spoke about the morphine drips the other day, and your answer probably fitted exactly why you wouldn't want to have it done, because you don't want to feel the not having the pain. It's what drives you. And I find that in top athletes, it's the pain that drives them. And a winner is never happy, because if they were, they would never improve. So that's how I kind of see you. But I've never first couple of months, I used the gloves and, the tender gloves, but then they came off and I just learned Sondra the person and I liked her, and that's who we became. And that's how we've always been. We rarely bring up the cancer.
Yeah.
You'll come and chat to me and it's Red, or we can't do cycling anymore. I'll give you a speech about, okay, we've got to keep up the muscle mass, and give a few ideas. But in no ways does it define who you are when I think about you. I do not think Sondra the stage for person. I think Sondra my mate. Tried over this and tried over these and all of that. Sure, I agree with you. I probably wouldn't judge. But the fact that you can, I'm jealous of. I would be envious of. And even your physique, like when you sent me the progress pics the other day, it's like I looked at that and I was like, goodness me. It's like, you look fantastic. Like an athletic, proper athletic professional. So. And, there's so many people, not even cyclists, more triathletes to me. You're not that skinny marathon winner type. You're more the slightly more muscular triathlete. Look, that was the first impression I got of that. And that's very impressive. People without the challenges you face would give anything to, and I know that body is hard work. And what you put into it over the decades, you worked hard for that.
Yeah.
Whether it's coaching with me, whether it's coaching with yourself, whether it's your cycling and coaching with your cycling coach, altogether that's the byproduct of hard work. And not everybody's going to have the outcome you've had. Obviously it's bad news. It's gone to the heart, it's gone to the ear and whatever. And those must hit hard. And as you say, you deal with it when you're ready to deal with it. And I know you go through dark periods of time. I know when to leave you to be. And I know when to speak to you. And you know when to speak to me. And I know that you've got an incredible support system in Doha. Right? And that's not the same for everybody. As you say, I could be diagnosed with cancer and I would last a week. It's not my fault. It's not my purpose or sense of purpose. It was just the type I got, the wrong time to deal with it. So you're right, there isn't sunshine and rainbows all the time. But I know you hate doing these in October. I hate interviewing about it. I'd much prefer to interview you about your coaching. And I'd like to touch on it. What advice would you give to somebody who has been diagnosed? Or, like a lot of people go, I'll leave it a week, I'll leave it 2 weeks, I'll leave it 3. My sense is, especially when it comes to this, you don't leave anything with us. It can spread so rapidly. What would you, I know you don't, both of us don't blow sunshine up anybody's arse. So I don't know how to word the question. Obviously, a lot of people come to you and say, what to do and looking for an answer, looking for what was your secret. And you don't have one. You can't tell them your secret. You are just you. And they are them. So it's two different outcomes. But there has to be something that you've picked up, surrounded by fellow people, kids, middle-aged, elderly, suffering, insane, scared. That what advice or what would be the first thing you would say to them, regardless of the outcome?
Well, I want to quickly touch on something you said earlier with regards to physique and everything else. I mean, you've seen what my journey has been. When I first wanted to do a bikini competition. It was, in hindsight now, looking back, I know it was about wanting to look a specific way.
Sure.
And irrespective of what my health was, because at that stage I almost felt that it wasn't important. I'm fighting this losing battle, so what's the use? I just wanted to look a specific way. And I think it was actually in the process of coaching with you too, where you took what I wanted to do, appreciated what I wanted to do, but also made me understand the importance of me being healthy as well. At that stage, I was deep in the process of studying my nutrition coaching, having stopped doing IT and everything else. And that was also part of my whole way of handling all of that. And that was to focus on the things I can control. And that was what I put in my body, what I do with my body, my attitude. And it was also through these years that I've had ups and downs where I've been happy with my physique, and then I pick up a lot of weight because my treatments change and the water retention, and I have issues with my kidney, and it was a huge emotional roller coaster. And it was actually, I think, when I really started cycling and really started to expect so much of my body, that my mind shift kind of changed. And also, I think with my daughter involved with that, when my mind shift changed to where I didn't care what my body could do as long as it looks like I'm an athlete, to getting to a point where I don't care what my body looks like as long as it can perform as an athlete. And it took literally that mind shift of me to get to a point where I would say to myself, okay, Sondra, so you want your body to be able to do X amount of weight training sessions a week, cycle and do really well in the process of doing that. Be a mom, be a wife, be a business person. And on top of that, you still want it to be strong enough to fight cancer. So what are you doing to provide it the foundation it needs to be able to do that? And that kind of shifted the whole way that I approached my body. So the scale became less of an issue for me, but rather what my body could do became a thing for me. And that's really where the mind shift went from just worrying about calories and starving my body versus feeding my body for what I wanted to do. And the magic just kind of happened in the process. All the things I knew as a coach, and all the things I would tell a client to do, but myself didn't do. Being on the treatment that I have causes muscles to atrophy. So I knew that I really needed to push not to lose this muscle mass that I have. I knew I wasn't going to build more, but I needed to keep what I have. And on top of that, I also knew, having struggled with cardiac arrest with this treatment, that it's really important that I keep my heart healthy, because if your ejection fraction falls under a certain value, they stop the treatment, which I've had before. So I knew I needed to keep my heart healthy. I knew I needed to keep my body strong, because I'm literally running for life, cycling for life, training for life. As long as my body and my heart can do it, this treatment can carry on. And that kind of changed everything for me when it came to my training. That even though I'm really happy physique-wise where I am now, what I'm more happy with is what my body can actually do physique-wise. Whilst it's nice because I feel comfortable in my body and I feel good with everything, I'm more happy because my body can do these really long cycle rides, can do these really long runs, can run really fast when it needs to be.
Yeah, you downplay exactly what you mean by cycling and running.
Yeah. So,
Because it's I hammer you with the muscle, that for me, that just give me my muscle and feed it, That's been my thorn in your bum the whole time. But the level of cycling that you cycle at, the level of running that you're running at, is not your typical marathon. It's not your typical. I train fine, man. And I've got so much respect now for ultra distance run. competitors versus before when I was just strong, and to see that you do chemo dialysis on your Thursdays, and then the level of competition that you do on a Friday, which is what distance?
So the Goa Quest was a 250-kilometer cycle ride
In
that we
what
did.
degree weather?
Sorry?
In what degree weather?
Hot if you're lucky, late 30s, sometimes early 50s Celsius.
And this was most weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just to give the viewers a context that this isn't, I went for a walk, I went for a cycle. This is like doing an Ironman and more per week after dialysis, after chemotherapy, the day before. That's the superhuman concept that I was trying to. I want to give you all the accolades that it deserves, but I don't want people to just think of you like that either, But there's a real person beyond there. And yes, you've got the ability to do that. And I don't know how, but you do. And it is possible. And I think at the end of it, whether you are diagnosed, whatever that diagnosis might be, and that, so I think no matter your diagnosis, no matter your outcome, a week, a month, whatever, it comes down to your perspective. It comes down to, am I going to change my life? Am I going to enjoy this week and do my best? Or am I going to wallow in self-pity for it, But at the same time, allowing yourself to be down, to visit those dark places of yourself, but to also realize that you've got to get out of it because you can get lost in there. Like that saying goes, and you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back. So, yeah.
But with
I don't know what advice I would give somebody, but with every, as I say, I can only put myself in that position and be given, and I would try and see it as a gift, maybe. And then at the same time, I don't really want to know what I want to, I'd probably see both the blessing and the curse in it. I would try and optimize the blessing side, is the only advice I can give.
Yeah.
Because that's all you really can do.
It's true. And with regards to what you asked about, like newly diagnosed with people is, I think for me, when it comes to that is, there's certain things I've always wanted or thought that I would have wanted people to emotionally handle things better, or be able to tell people how to emotionally handle it. And I've come to realize through much frustration that you can't, because that's something that you as a person need to work out yourself. And especially if you don't know a person personally, to try and steer them in a way. I've always felt anyone that approached me, that asked me, what to do. I've just been diagnosed, or my dad's just been diagnosed, or whatever else, is the first thing I say is focus on the things you can control. You can control how you're eating. So I can give you advice how to eat. I can give you advice on practical things. What are the things that needs to be arranged if you're going to have surgery? What are the things that you need to organize? How do you prevent? What is the treatment you're going to have? If they don't know, well, you should ask your doctor, what chemo am I going to get? Go and research your chemo. Know your side effects. Start by preventing that. If you know you're going to get mouth ulcers, this is what you buy. Start rinsing now. This is what you use for nausea. Start planning it now. You don't wait for it to happen. You stop it before it happens. So I find mentally focusing on the things that you can control makes you feel a bit better about the things that you can't, because you feel, well, I'm doing something. And I think that is what where the running and the cycling actually started for me, was because I have metastasis in the bone, so I always have pain. But the issue with the morphine drip came in that not so much because I enjoy pain, actually not, but if I were to have that 24 hours of being on a morphine drip, it meant that for 24 hours I would feel how it feels to not have pain. So I would feel how normal would feel. And I was scared that it would make me depressed to then know that I can't have that all the time. So I'd rather live in the known space. And I know pain. I know how to manage that pain. But the psychological part of that was that as I'm sitting on this chair, I have pain. So I'm constantly shifting from the one hip to the other hip. And I know why I have pain. But when I'm running, the harder I run, actually the less pain I have. Where if I have a very slow cadence and it's a slow run, I have more pain in my hips. But there's this sense of control. I have control over the amount of pain based on how I run or how I cycle. So even though the pain is still because of cancer, I feel like I've got some sense of control over it. I can justify the pain that I have because I'm inducing it, if that makes sense. And I'm inducing it because what I'm doing is making my body stronger to be able to get the treatment. So I can handle it better. That has started. So it's psychologically better to me than sitting on a couch and knowing I've got this pain, it's the cancer, versus I'm running and all I'm focusing on is checking my Garmin. Is my pace correct? That my coach has set for me. Is my cadence correct? So something is distracting me and I can see what I'm doing is making me stronger. So it kind of numbs the pain out, if that makes any sense. So it really does become a control thing. And that's what I try and make people understand, is that you're not questioning your doctor, but by questioning, what are you going to put in my body? What are the cycles I'm going to have? What are the drugs going to consist? What are my side effects? All of this is you taking control over the aspects that you can, and it becomes empowering because it is still your body. You can still choose whether you want the treatment or not. And for me, knowing what is going to happen to my body makes me feel better. If I wake up that morning and I feel the nausea, it's like, okay, I know my medication dosage went up. This is expected. So I can justify what I'm feeling. It is known. And for me to live in a space of things that I know is comforting. That's basically how I handle it. And I think that is something that I would always say to people, is you control the things you can and you handle the things that you can't control. And if you're not ready to handle them, then you park them until you're ready to take them and handle them. But focusing on the things you can control gives you that little bit of empowerment that you need in a situation where there's a lot that's not in your hand.
A lot of elements.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that it's a life lesson for everyone, not cancer patients only. I think, we all go through hard times. Everybody is at the moment. The world as it is. And sitting back and doing nothing about it is not going to do you any good. But being proactive about it, does give you that sensation of, well, at least I'm doing something. It's proactive. It's that empowerment. I can't control the inflation. I can't control the recession. I can't control a world war. But I can control this. So it's quite fascinating. I like the cycling analogy, because I know you cycled well because you're an athlete, and secondly because of your ability to handle pain, because that's what endurance is. It's how much pain you can handle over so much distance. So that ability to, where I would run to pace or compete, swim to pace. So at that stage it was run and cycle to pace. you are running something to your pain. It's your marker that you know well, and it dictates your pace and how you should be running. It's a very, very good point. And I think it's a point not just for, I think it's a point for everybody at the moment. Everybody. Because I think the last 2 years have been, for most, the hardest year, no matter where you are in the world. Most of my questions.
I think so.
And I wanted to, I didn't want to stress, like everyone does, your achievements all the time. I do, but I also want people to recognize that you're a human being. And as much as an anomaly as you are, doesn't make you less of one. You still got to struggle and take the beating. Like Mike Tyson said, everyone thinks they can fight until they get hit in the mouth. So you've still got to take those punches. And no matter how your tolerance for pain is low, whether it be on an emotional level, you're blessed with a great support structure, a wonderful daughter. I can't believe we're sitting here 10 years later after that discussion. I feel blessed by it because it changed everything about my coaching. I became a different coach because of it. I said yes to things I should say no to. This is going to be a difficult case. It's not going to make much money. It's not worth your effort. But it's going to change that person's life, and I've got the knowledge to do it. So I say yes. And I think that paying it forward, saying yes to you has meant that I've said yes to so many other people that if I hadn't, possibly wouldn't be here. And maybe they paid it forward. And so the cycle goes on and on and on. And in your coaching business, what is your niche and what do you concentrate on?
So at this stage, I have a few triathletes, sports and or endurance athletes. I coach them purely on nutrition. My husband is, although that's not his main job, but he is a UCI qualified running and cycling and swimming coach. He coached me with my cycling. He coaches me now with my running, which worked great because he's a numbers guy, but he's also, because he is very black and white, he does not treat me any differently. He treats me like any other athlete. I don't get away with, we're not going to ever do use it. I would maybe joke about it, but I don't get away with, chemo. It's like, this is your training plan. And I would look at it, I'm like, are you sure that's not a typo? You think I can actually reach these targets? And then I do. And it works great. He's very good at separating that. So when it comes to training endurance athletes, it's mostly from a nutrition point of view. It is very difficult because it's a very different culture, because most of these clients are not Westerners. So there's a culture barrier, there's a traditions barrier, but I've lived in the Middle East for 16 years, so I do have a good understanding of how to work with them, and everyone's very eager to learn, everyone's very eager to try things out, and I have a few amazing clients that will ask me questions and not just want an answer, but want to understand, and that's the part that I enjoy the most, where I can explain something to someone as opposed to just, well, this is how you do it. And the majority of the clients that I have, though, is for personal nutrition. It's either for weight loss or people that want AIP protocol type of diet. One thing that's very big here that I'm trying to make people understand is, in my opinion, really something useless. Is I have a lot of people coming with the food sensitivity test and these massive lists, and I just did this test and I'm not allowed to eat these foods. I have a lot of that. So that's a lot of work. one thing that's a huge interest for me is gut health. So I started brewing kombucha about 5 years ago as something for myself. And
Can I
the
send you
important,
a book
sorry,
by? I'll send you a book who is Professor Gabriella. She's on one of my podcasts. And she's probably one of the leading authorities on gut microbiome.
yeah. So I've got a lot of emphasis on it. I try and make people understand it's not just about being regular and going to the toilet. There's so much more to it. And yeah, I started doing kombucha about 5 years ago. At some stage over COVID, I was brewing about 100 to 110 liters a week and selling out every week. I'm now at about 50 to 60 liters a week that I brew and sell. I do kimchi. So I do both my coaching, but I also have these products and things that I make in between. Yeah, the majority
And
of
the
the coaching
holiday
is...
places in South Africa,
Sorry?
the holiday homes in South Africa.
Yeah, there's those. Well, mostly Jeff handles the financials. My sister
Yeah.
does the marketing and everything else. So there's a lot of things. And I also recently started I used to do kombucha workshops and recently got approached by a consulting company here that works in Aftertar. So Aftertar is the big sport section within Doha, and actually attended one of their workshops, and I was questioning, let's say, let's be honest, I wasn't asking questions. I was questioning the
Yeah.
lecturer on some of the things that they were saying. And the CEO called me afterwards and asked me if I could come and chat to them, and then said to me, don't you want to lecture for us? So I started lecturing for them this weekend again on Friday. I've got a 5-hour sports wellness lecture that I do for them. And for 6 weeks, 3 hours every Saturday, a personal nutrition. So I created all the content. I'm presenting it. So it's a lot of things. And then obviously still studying in between, but I do enjoy the coaching. I do have a few clients that I physically train, one-on-one training. Most of these are clients that have certain things that would actually be detrimental for them to just go to a normal mainstream PT. So from knee issues to people that have had mastectomies or, I had one of my big achievements is I had a male client that had severe back issues and could not pick up a weight. Firstly, coached him to losing a considerable amount of weight. And that was after he had a bypass surgery because he suffered a heart attack when he was in the feast. And got him to the other day sending me a photo of doing a 150 kilogram 1 rep max deadlift. And he weighs just over 80 kgs. So that felt good to get someone to that point. But yeah, I'm very selective at this stage. I think I'm privileged enough to get to a point where I can choose who I want to coach for very obvious reasons.
You don't ever stretch yourself.
And I do kind of have certain things in place that you need to do in order for me to coach you. And usually that is where you see who's actually serious about this, or who just wants instant quick fixes. But I enjoy the big thing for me with my coaching is I always tell people that I don't want to tell you how to eat. I want to teach you how to eat. But in the process of me teaching you how to eat, I first need to tell you how to eat. But I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you to eat that way. And I think that's where I also encourage clients is if you walk in the shop and you see a protein bar and you're thinking, oh, wow, this is a convenient way for me to get a snack in. Send me a photo of nutritional value. Ask me, Sondra, what do you think of this protein shake? What do you think of this protein bar? And I will tell you a yes or no. Exactly. So I'm not just to say yes or no. I will tell you why I'm saying yes or no. Because again, it's that concept of self-empowerment. Empower yourself to know why you are making the choices that you are. Because if you tap into that long enough, it becomes a really strong driving force between everything else, is that concept of self-empowerment. I made this meal and I'm eating it not because my nutritionist told me that that is what you eat for lunch, because no one can tell you this is what you have to do. It's still a choice for you to actually do it. So it becomes more of a self-empowerment. If I chose to actually follow it, I chose to cook it this way, do it this way, eat it this way, because I choose that for my body. And I think that is where it becomes a really powerful thing, when you start taking ownership of every aspect of your life. And I try and portray that a lot in the coaching too.
Well, that is coaching to me. This piece of paper and an extreme training program is not coaching to me. This is sadly the state of coaching locally and I must say abroad, where it's quality over quantity. It's let's start a WhatsApp group and have somebody who doesn't know what they're doing answer questions. To me, coaching is a relationship. It is I've got to find the reason why. And once I find the why, I can find the how. And it's about education. You can't go and find if it fits your macros if you don't know anything. It requires a skill set, and that skill set needs to be learned. It needs to be learned properly. And what are the pitfalls? Well, your trackers aren't accurate, are they? Not at all. Even the verified ones. And that's where I would pay thousands for professional software to help me, because I work on a micronutrient level. But I see the inaccuracies, and I've been doing diets before the internet. 94, 95, I was already doing this. And we didn't have internet, we were doing it via textbooks. And I just found I had a data loss about a year and a half ago. And I just found that every book I've read and every course I've done over the years, from paramedics to swift water rescue to training the military and pilots to biochemistry, psychology, gut health. Yeah, that was. And one of the things I've always struggled with clients, and I wish I had the ability at the moment, is to choose. There's a difference between accountability and responsibility. I'm not here to be a cheerleader. I'll give you all the information in the world if you ask me, but you need to take responsibility. Because without responsibility, there's no rainbow at the end. You will constantly be looking for validation. You will constantly be looking for somebody to tell you you're doing okay. You know what I mean? And sometimes we need that. But sometimes we also need to take responsibility that this meal that I'm eating is taking me towards my goal or away from my goal, or this training session, or this, and Jeff's obviously, you've got it. So and he's figured out your secret. You can see it with, you'll put something probably extra hard because he knows in your mind you will not say no. That's a challenge to you. And that's probably a skill set that he's learned and that you probably wouldn't use with somebody else. They'll use it with you. I wanted to do my triathlon. You got the 2 certificates that you do for triathlon training. Then I realized it's not my world at all. I've been in the bodybuilding game for too long. I'm out of it now, other than looking after our pro athletes and our amateur athletes. I oversee all of them and make sure they're healthy. I oversee their blood work, because we will not, health is our top priority. And yeah, I've gone much the same route as you have. I want the difficult cases. I want the obesity, but I want to know why you obese. I know the genetic factors. I know you're a successful human being. But I also know that somebody telling you will increase your steps and do this and do that and putting you in extra. How do you tell a 274 5-kilogram person? Because it hurts. The soles of their feet get bruised. So it's baby steps in a way. But what I want to do is I know that you selected with your clients. Do you want me to put how they can contact you? Or would you rather me leave that all?
I think we could put it on, especially because I assume I can do online, I do in person too, but especially if maybe someone that has cancer would like to reach out or
I try
get
not to do that to you,
more.
but I always ask you first if it's somebody close to me.
Yeah, no,
But
I'm okay with that.
yeah, as I said, I can put your I don't know which episode this will be. I want it to be the first one, but I don't want to have no followers and people miss it. It's an important one for me.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. It was great to catch up.